Yes, This song is called Be the Change, inspired by the words of Mahatma Gandhi, who lived for peace and not violence, and told us to be the change we wish to see in the world. Freedom's calling, I feel the fire that's deep inside us. Everybody wants change, but tell me who will guide us? To the leaders that passed away, put up your lighters. It's a beautiful struggle, but it cannot divide us. We're the ones that we've always been waiting for. See yourself in the mirror and open up the door. Walk through it and feel the love throughout your pores. Be the light, life's purpose is to feel joy. Metaphysical, lyrical, standing up for truth. The only one to make change is walking in your shoes. Be the example, don't complain about the news. Making music and serving the world with the loo. Now you can be the same, or you can be the change. Find strength from inside, break through the chains. No one to blame, nothing to prove. You create your reality, it's up to you. Be the change that you wanna see in the world. Like God need live for peace, aspire to peace. Someone who fights for the beliefs, like Martin Luther King. Aspire to be that Lord, that light, like Christ, life for the moment in need. And if you believe in Jehovah, Allah, Buddha, Krishna, it's up to me. My soul yearns for peace in a world that's flooded with war. History's littered with body scars.
Welcome to the 100th Monkey Radio with Tom and Ramon. Now, this is kind of a little special bonus that we're going to throw out there for you guys. I happened to come across a video that showed some really anomalous stuff happening on the sun here recently. And what I saw was a CME going out, being blasted off of the surface, and it hitting an object. I mean, it was obviously an object because it hit a wall and then followed the edge of this wall. And it was so anomalous. The first thing in my mind was James Horak. And if you guys recall, last year we had James on, and he kind of knocked our socks off with the information that this guy is just a fountain of information. And he is very well versed in what's going on up there, and we figured we would bring him back for a special show here to talk about some of the things that are going on. James, welcome to the 100th Monkey.
Thank you, Tom.
Wow, I sent you that video this morning. Had you seen that already?
Yes, I had commented on it because someone else had discussed it with me, and after you sent it to me, then I put it on my Facebook because it is an extension of something that was already discussed about 2.5 weeks ago on Kevin Smith. He was showing this feature of presumably a very large craft that had length, and yet it had these brakes, and its body that looked like fire. And this thing would have been in the vicinity of 10,000 miles long.
Wow.
So, but I called in about it to discuss it, and Kevin just said, well, do you know what this is? And I said, yes, I do know what it is. He says, well, what is it? And I said, it is a process. ETs are forging metal. They're making a metal. And he said, well, really? And I said, yeah. And I said, it'll be there for several weeks, and it'll be protected by the EMVs from solar flares and CMEs while it's there. And he says, okay. So that's what's happening here. What you see is a CME divert the solar flare from the object.
So it really makes me curious. What kind of metal would need the heat of a sun to forge?
This is a metal that it's a crystalline metal. I call it armaton, and it it has its own properties. You can program it. It can be a smart metal. It can you can have a field on the outside in which everything, the astrophysics on the inside of the object becomes relative to you, like you're your own little universe. So no matter what's going on the outside, it doesn't impair your environment on the inside. And this is a secret why UFOs can do all the maneuvers at such incredible speeds, turn right angles when they're going 75,000 miles an hour or more, and the inertia and centripetal force doesn't tear people up.
I've heard some contactees say that when they see the ship and then they go inside the ship, that it doesn't match the size.
No. It's larger.
So is that the same kind of metal that would allow for something like that?
Yes.
Wow. Can I get one for my house?
Well, if you get over the hump, you bet you can.
Well, speaking of metals, I came across a metal that we have here on good old terra firma that I had never heard of before, and it just surprised the hell out of me that this has been, this was developed, I think, in the late 60s, early 70s, and it just surprised the hell out of me that it's kind of was squashed. Nitinol. Are you familiar with nitinol?
I might be if you give me a description. That must be the trade.
It's a combination of titanium and, what was it, titanium?
Nickel.
And nickel, right. Yeah. It's atomically equal parts, and when it is cool, when it gets cold, it becomes flexible, and when it gets hot, it returns to its original shape, original form, and becomes more rigid.
Well, this is a preliminary step in the direction of developing a methodology to produce harmattan. Of course, it can't be done on Earth, and there are a number of reasons, and it's not going to be done by the technology and the bastardized system that exists on Earth today. So, I'll speak freely about it.
This nitinol, when we're done here, I'll send you the video that I was exposed to that shows this metal. But these guys have actually taken this stuff, and it reverts back to its original form in the hot water really fast. I mean, very rapidly. These guys have actually set it up on a wheel where it was going from with two containers. With one had cold water, one had hot water, and they set this wheel up to where it dipped this nitinol into it, and they made themselves a motor with this stuff.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, a direct. This is like the first that I'm aware of direct use of heat to move something.
Well, it's not the first. It's the first to use an exotic metal. But you can do the same thing with gases. In fact, there was a company in Nevada that was going to provide a solar energy device, a dynamo that was driven by solar energy that moved on the basis like a turbine. At one end, you would cool a liquid differential. It would turn it on one phase. At the other end, you would heat it, and this would be self-reciprocating once it got started. And you would need a minimum of solar energy to keep it going. And these people had worked out the feasibilities, and it would be an excellent producer of electricity for locals in this little community in Texas was going to adopt it, going to get off the grid with the gas company and the electric company and produce their own electricity, and that got shot in the foot right away. But it would have worked.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I see with this this nitinol metal, is it got shut down so fast because there were so many possibilities with it. I mean, in this video, and this was a well-produced video. Like I said, it's probably from the early 70s, wouldn't you say, Ramon?
Yeah. It looks,
yeah.
I think Jason said it was like 79.
Yeah, they were talking about NASA doing experiments with this stuff, and the government and all sorts of different industries that were doing experiments with this stuff and working on ways to, you know, generate energy with it. So
anytime that you can create an exchange that will lead to a self-reciprocation where you put in the energy, you get it started, and it starts exceeding on its output what is put in, you've got tremendous potential.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this stuff, the temperature differential between the two waters was only, what was it, 20 Celsius, Ramon? Something like that? I think it was only 20 Celsius to make this thing just perform like I was absolutely shocked when I saw this stuff. So, and you can actually buy this metals from a couple different sources too. So
people ought to buy it and experiment with it and develop a small power unit.
The guy that we just interviewed, Jason Verbelli, he has got some, you know, on the way. He's the experimenting guy, I'll tell you.
Great.
Yeah. So I did this kind of thing, you know, the free energy, the technology for a free type energy, a non-consuming type energy is there. It's just a matter of getting it out into production, getting it out past all the roadblocks, you know.
Yeah. Well, you have people that have these mindsets, and they really hate to see anybody come up with something that challenges them. They make these rules. Now, rules are arbitrary. I mean, after all, what is more arbitrary than the principle of the conservation of energy when you see these UFOs? It kind of kicks it in the butt.
Yeah, it does.
But the funny thing is, I knew a guy, this was a prospector, and he lived in Grand Junction, and he had some claims down on Little Dolores where I like to go. And I knew him over a period of years, but he had, Art was his name, Art had developed a wind-driven turbine that would turn the second member faster than the first. And he could prove it. And he built a model, and he would get invited to get colleges and technical institutions. They would invite him in, and he would talk about this and show it, and had these gauges to prove that it worked, and nobody could explain it. But he had a particular Ventura design. And years later, we had an exhibit here in Fort Worth that was unique. It was the first exhibit of the Soviet space exhibit that was going to tour the world. And it came to Fort Worth first. I don't know why. But in the course of it being here, the Soviet Union capitulated. They sent everything back. And it ended. But it was incredible because they had these two rocket engines there. And these were the most beautiful things I'd ever seen. And I just gaped at them, you know, and I talked to some of the engineers, some of the rocket scientists that they had that would explain them and so with them. And I kept looking at their exhausts. And their exhausts were modeled on this Ventura design. And I said, no wonder you're so far ahead of the United States.
Wow. I wanted to get into what's been happening here on Earth with the animals. Recently, I'm sure a lot of the listeners heard about this. There's been a massive dolphin, I forgot what kind of birds, and seals off the coast of Peru, where they're just, been washing up by the thousands. Do you know anything about that?
Well, you have to expect this when they're fine-tuning their instruments for population reduction. You change the polarity of the Earth, you're going to extinct so many of the species. And this is, of course, they don't, when they're tinkering, they don't leave their settings on not long enough to extinct the entire species, but they kill enough of them, don't they?
Yeah.
And this has to do with HAARP. It has to do with military satellite working in conjunction with HAARP and other things. Like, you can't operate anything that puts out the electromagnetic impulses that these things do without infringing upon the way in which many species conduct their normal everyday routines. You change the polarity of insects, they can't reproduce and they can't eat. They die.
Yeah. Do you know any way to counter that? Maybe something a layman person can make or do?
Yeah, I do, but it would get me in trouble to say, and it'd get you guys in trouble if I said it, because it's, we are nearing police state ramification, I think.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's getting to the point where...
There's no easy way. There's no easy way. There's no nice way to say what has to be done, but it's coming to that. When people start going hungry, they're going to agree with it.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm still, I don't know if it's naivety on my part or what. I still have, I'm still very optimistic of a smooth transition through this time that we're going through.
It might happen. It might happen. But bear in mind, it's going to depend on people like us talking about these things and bringing them to light and making our arguments and then reaching inside of the machine and striking harmony with people that are going to have to be the facilitators of the New World Order technologically. And if they decide, hey, I don't like where this is leading any more than these patriots, or I don't like this any more than these people that are spiritual or looking for alternative energy or whatever, I don't like this. I don't like where this is going. And they have already organized inside of the military, inside of the military-industrial complex. They've already organized opposition. And
this white hat group you're talking about now?
Well, there's the white hat group, and that's not all. And first of all, history will teach them one thing. If the powers that be, which are very few in number, had their way, after they depopulated the earth, the next thing on the agenda would be to remove the evidence. That means the facilitators, because they're going to rewrite history and make themselves out wonderful,
right?
Not the murderous scum they are. So, well, I call it like it is. I could say something a lot worse than that. But then, it's not in the bag, Tom, and I'll agree with you, but it's just a matter of when enough people wake up. I think what has been discussed and described as the head of the turtle, you want to kill a turtle, you got to wait for its head to come out, right?
Right.
Well, the point of the euphemism here that carries is that you want people to see just what these creatures are, so that they don't say, well, I don't know if we should get rid of them or not. Well, yeah, if you don't want this to come back,
Right. And so that so what we're doing through things like this show and all these other people that are actually trying to raise a consciousness and awareness of what's going on is we're trying to kind of set a fire under the tail of the turtle to get that head to pop out.
Well, I think the head is out. It's just a matter that a lot of people are not going to wake up until they are having to suffer to the point of going hungry. I mean, after all, look at what has happened to the working class in America, the working class in England, the working class in France. Every industrial nation has been undermined by these incredibly insane trade agreements.
Mm.
It's happening here, too.
Yeah, basic economics has been thrown out of the window. You no longer hear any economists talk about balance of payments deficit or a protective tariff. These are necessary to protect the country. And when these people, these monsters, in their social engineering, when they are creating this world that we're living in today, that's on the verge of economic collapse throughout, when they're creating that, and they can't do any better in running a nation, how in the devil can anyone expect them to do any better in running a world? Well, their answer is, we'll just get rid of you. We'll get rid of 95% of you, and we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
I think that's easier said than done. No,
but
I think the human spirit is rising up to combat this, and I think history is actually on our side also as far as the cyclic nature of civilization here on this planet.
Well, if people are as astute as you damn right. Yeah, sure. But you have to bear in mind that we have 2 generations now that haven't been taught what you were taught, that haven't gone through learning when they were in high school sound economic policy.
Right.
Didn't you have a course in economics when you were in high school?
Oh, yeah.
It was pretty good, wasn't it?
I didn't.
Well, you're right on the tail end of one of those generations. I hate to say that. But Ramon, you're younger. You're younger than Tom and me.
No, by the time I got to high school, they already had got rid of home ec and got rid of carpentry and got rid of a whole bunch of things in our school.
Yeah, economics, that was probably one of the out of the things that I did get out of my official public schooling, I'd have to say, economics and mathematics were the 2 things that I got out of the public school that I actually carried with me.
Sure.
So.
Sure. Well, then they served you well, but the kids today, they're not getting anything that's going to serve them well in life.
Yeah.
Not anything. They are being geared for jobs that are totally based on industries that can change overnight.
Right.
Yeah.
And yet they're being told that this is their future, that this is The people that are telling them that are lying to them. They're misleading them. They're not given any reward for developing disciplines, methodologies that will stick to their ribs like we were taught when we were in school. Because if you can't discipline a student, you can't teach them.
Mm.
And they can't discipline them, so they can't teach them.
Right. Right. Yeah, some of that was probably the thing that made some of that learning and that teaching stick to my ribs, sort of, as you so poignantly put it. It was that discipline. I mean, it was that, there's that, I don't know, that I hate to say fear factor, but I suppose that's what it was. It was, you know, if I don't do my homework, if I don't do, you know, if I don't pay attention in class, you know, there's repercussions. Now it's, you know, the teacher's afraid to tell them to put their damn iPod away, you know.
Well, you know, and everywhere except countries like China. And, you know, people are beginning to believe that the Chinese are superior to us because they send kids over here that have learned what we learned when we were going to school. That's the only difference. It isn't because they're smarter than us. It's because they have acquired this discipline. They know how to study. They have methodology, and our kids don't.
The one thing my wife was telling me, when she went to college, she didn't have to take any of the math courses because all the math courses that they were offering in college, she already had taken in high school.
Yeah.
Oh, well, she went to college in the U.S., correct, Ramon?
Yeah. So
her high school was in Japan?
Yeah. So her high school math was much higher than any of the math requirements in the U.S.
Wow.
Well, if you're from just about anywhere else in the world and you come to the United States and you have gone through the school system up to college in anywhere else, they'll give you the first year of college credit, put you in the second year.
Yeah.
Wow. So let's shift gears and get away from the education. We know we got some serious problems there, and I think we have I don't know. I think there's an element of our society that's looking at that stuff, and I think it'll be addressed. I think once we become when that 100th monkey tolls his bell for unity consciousness, I think things change quite a bit. But going away from the education, and I want to talk about what you've been doing recently. You've been doing that series of interviews with that you and Crystal Clark have been doing. Wow, James, that's some interesting stuff.
Well, she's very good, and is very on the point. Has very systematic. If you read her books, you'll find that that's just her makeup.
Right.
And she did excellent job with her books, and she and I and some friends of ours worked together, and we have made headway. We have a friend in Germany who makes our videos, and he adds a lot to the group. His name is Hans Erler. He goes by the name Shuni, and his work is on the web, and he's very talented. We picked up a gentleman an Englishman by the name of Benjamin, and he is quite capable. He's a good friend, and of course, Tors has come back to us, and she had quite a travail there for 7 or 8 months, and.
So you guys are addressing kind of the origins, or are addressing in part of this a lot of the origins of mankind on Earth, and origins of the actual universe, from what I'm picking up from it. Would you give us a quick recap on what we've got here for? Well, I know it's probably hard to do a recap on this, but the races that are currently on this planet, you know, it's always a lot of people talk about, well, you know, there's everybody always points to the Pleiades or Sirius or the Orion constellation. Are those the primary origins for who we are here?
No. there has been a lot of confusion spread because it works into the myths that people like to use to promote agendas. But there is a great deal of constraint placed on ETs by the extended communities to which most of them belong. I'd say 95% of ET communities have formed extended communities that involve planetary and interplanetary societies, and they maintain very, very closely abided by rules and protocols. And you know, in the last several lineages on Earth, there has been a minimum of interference. There have been visitations. There have been there has been a limited amount of contact, but it has been very constrained. The exception is the EB, because the EB is not sentient and problematic, and is this is its last refuge. And
so that makes the question popped into my head: why would those constraints be put on them, as far as, or what's the purpose behind that limiting of communication to a extension of themselves?
It's very important to determine whether or not a culture, especially one that features something as unique as earthbound humans, can make it on its own. If they can't get over the hump, can't overcome their technology, and that's precisely how I would put it, they are deemed aberrant and cannot be trusted with the technology that they would share in the extended community that could give one person the ability to destroy a planet if aberrancy is not removed from the culture and the species.
So but the question I have is, wouldn't it make more sense to have an active interaction to be able to teach, you know, common sense, you know, I see most of the confusion and turmoil and problems that we have here on this planet right now is because we really don't know who we are. We think we are completely separated from everything else out there. So wouldn't you, it just seems to me like the rationale there doesn't make sense to me, because it's like, if we had that, if it was common knowledge that we are intimately connected and fundamentally connected to all these races that are roaming the cosmos, I don't know, it just makes more sense to me that we would be much more peaceful, and we would work together because we would know that we were connected on a fundamental level.
That would be true in many cases, but you have a unique feature that seems to hinder that, and it's up to you to correct it, to deal with it, or to evolution to evolve beyond it, and you're not doing a good job of it. And so ET looks on you with mixed feelings and concerns. You're about to destroy yourself. Literally about to destroy yourself. I mean, you've had the hydrogen bomb now for 50 years. You've had detente. You've had arms reduction treaties. You've had all kinds of stuff, and right now you've got one of the two nations that has the vastest armament, nuclear armament, threatening the other one because of their overextension of preemptive strike bases near them. Now, as a learning experience, it's pretty incredibly pathetic, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, it just still I just have issue with the rationale behind that.
Well,
and maybe one day I will understand or see the wisdom in the approach that was taken with civilization on this planet, but
well, a lot of things are studied. They're studied very closely. This isn't an easy thing to come to. But I talk about a unique facet. You have something no one else has. You have a split consciousness, and that tends to be more ambivalent and to lead to a greater amount of aberrancy. You have an entrenched elite that has gone insane. How can you expect anyone else to correct this if you can't?
Yeah. Well, see, I think my point of it is not, understanding the situation that we're in right now, but I'm looking back and saying that this situation would not be here in the first place if the, and ifs are always, kind of worthless, but if the whole approach to the beginning of the process would have been closer interaction. Now, have we had that closer interaction in the past with other civilizations that have risen and fallen here?
Well, it's not that, Tom. You came here into this system fully capable, established, able to join an extended community if you wanted.
You're talking about we came here in this life, or talking about
you came in? No, not in this lineage.
Right,
You've had 6 extinctions on this planet. Mankind has had 6 extinctions on this planet. Mankind as you are right now, and It always cycles back to the same thing. You don't overcome your technology. You know what I mean by overcome your technology?
Understand that it is that double-edged sword.
Well, right. Control it to where it's useful and applied for the benefit of everyone.
Right.
You have enslaved people economically. You have, you repeat this, and it just gets worse. You have been allotted a lot of exception, this lineage, because of the advent and the interference from EVs as a complication. Now, there are a lot of very good people that are wise that are here, and they are addressing these problems, and they know. They have the knowledge. They know what it will take. They're orderly about it. They have the capability. They are equal to the occasion. And though they have split consciousness, they have compensated for it beautifully. And the ET communities look upon this split consciousness with a great deal of concern, but at the same time they appreciate the depth of intensity, the creativity, the incredible beauty of your art, music. And they're touched by it. They don't have anything like that because after you get over the hump, things pretty well take care of themselves. The stress, the intensity that was once necessary to survive is no longer necessary. So I would think that the word that applies to them most is indolent. But On the same token, they have no disease. They have, everyone has leisure time. There is a vast appreciation for nature and for the design that is present, like we're talking about in the sun right now. And science and technology are in harmony with philosophy and social structures. There's so many things that and people have the knowledge because they have the leisure time to acquire it.
So I wonder what do you think the purpose of this whole existence here, this whole experience that we are having here as human beings?
To the universe is to produce something new. Something new. Look, right now this is the most fascinating theater in this part of the galaxy. That's why you've seen all these craft. That's why ET's all over the place. I mean, if I could sell box seats.
Oh, geez.
This is drama, and this is for us. This is the most dramatic time to live, because think what it was like to live in the 50s, to live way back, and to know you were going to die without seeing justice done, without seeing all the injustice resolved. But we are living in a time when it's going to be resolved. One way or the other, it's going to be resolved. It's exciting. And,
definitely.
And I've been around a long time, and let me tell you, this is always this is always a time to be here. Let me tell you something else. You have an immortal soul, and the pain of death is very sharp.
No matter what, in the end, it's all going to be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all going to be okay.
So what's your question, Ramon? I hear one on your lips.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the name of these. Recently I heard somebody else interview, and it was Linda Moulton Howe, and she came across this guy who was talking about these beings that, I don't know if I'm going to say this correctly, but that were either Greek gods or posing as Greek gods in ancient time. And he had brought this book that talked about it. And when he brought the book, at the time he was in the military, the MPs came to him and told him he had to give the book up. And he was like, why? This is about Greek gods. So, and I'm trying to remember, they mentioned a race there of beings, and it sounds like Olmec, but it's not Olmec, it's something like that. Are you familiar with anything like that?
Well, you mentioned the Olmec, and recently I saw a very extensive and quite wonderful movie that was made called Chimerica. And it mentions the Olmec in the Mayan in respect to that they were influenced, that the monument builders in the New World were influenced from the rest of the world, that they just didn't spring up on their own, and they didn't. In fact, one of the things that Mesoamerican anthropologists and archaeologists know but don't talk about is that it is conclusive that the Olmec was established by transoceanic migration from China by some priesthood that was being persecuted and left China, sailed to the New World, arrived on the Pacific coast of Central America, and established the Olmec civilization. Now, the proof of that is in the cultural elements they share, namely batons, both designated rank by baton. There are 13 batons, Both have 13 batons, and the batons are the same. Now,
Hmm.
what more do you need?
Yeah, there's so much evidence like that of parallels between things that were on different continents. It's anybody looking at it with objective eyes has to conclude, yes, there was transatlantic, transpacific migration constantly.
Constantly, yeah, but the issue here, Tom, is why is this information hidden? Why can't an anthropologist or an archaeologist come out with this openly?
Well, because then it disputes the approved history.
It disputes the elite in their BS bloodline myths.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's some mysteries surrounding the Olmec and the Maya and several different civilizations from South America that on their disappearance, on how they just seem to have just vanished off the face of the continent. Is there
With the Olmec more than anyone else? Now the Olmec is the very first.
right?
What's interesting about the Olmec, not only that, but if you go into Central America and you look around, you see things all over the place that stand out. One of them is the Olmec head. Now, this isn't Oriental. This Olmec head is Numidian, Negroid,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all over the place. And
Yeah.
that was one of the favorite motifs that the Olmec left behind. Now, why? What's going on here? I was real curious why no one's ever talked about the face on Mars and its resemblance to that Olmec head.
Hmm.
I was curious about the pyramids in China and the pyramids in Mesoamerica, and how they somewhat look alike.
Yes. Now the Chinese pyramids are larger than the Egyptian. And they've never been excavated. I've heard they're in the process of excavating one of them. But they don't let anybody from outside come in at all. There are two reasons for that. One is that they do not want to desecrate the tomb of Genghis Khan, and they don't know where it is. And another thing is that they know that any time that they find something like this, like they've recently found some workings in the Basigi Mountains in Romania, which the same thing. I mean, immediately the Illuminati, and generally from the Bilderberg group, they produce this character who goes out immediately and uses his influence to make sure that if there is anything like Hall of Records involved in any of these structures, it's immediately suppressed. Because I'll tell you what's going on in some of the significant structures, not just pyramids, but in some of their time capsules. And towards the end of an extinction of a lineage, people want to get together and they want to leave a warning that shows what brought them to their end, so that it won't happen again. What people don't understand is that the Babylonians, even Cyrus, all had archaeologists, historians, so forth. They were into studying the past too, because they began to realize at some point or another that it was cyclical. Things are repeating. And the same is true of the former lineages that have extincted. and they would find that there was a lineage before them. They would find the evidence of that, and they would sometimes come up with answers we haven't come up with as to what brought about that last extinction. And so some of these pyramids and other structures like earthworks contain a hall of records, like, taking that expression from the alleged hall of records under the Sphinx. And the Illuminati, as the personal army of the Rothschilds, the top of the heap, do not want you to know what those warnings are, because they aim right at the elite in the cycle they propagate.
So Edgar Casey said that would be found. I can't remember what year he said it was going to be found.
It has been found. It has been suppressed.
Right.
And if you want a very good example of the suppression of very keen historical evidence, and let's take the case of Egyptology. You have to realize that when Carter found the tomb of Tutankhamun, it was sealed. But the papyrus, the history of Tutankhamun's lineage, was suppressed. It's never been produced.
What's the reason for that?
Because it would offend Israel. It would shake up their concept of what they are, their ethnic racist ideal. The truth about the Exodus, the truth about Moses. And I can give you an account of that's precisely what it is. Because Carter had his license revoked for looting the Tutankhamun's tomb. He was caught red-handed. And it was over an incident that involved a group of reporters that got to the site within weeks after the tomb was discovered. And Carter was off in the tomb with his bodyguard when these people came. And so they were showed to Carter's tent. And while they were there, they saw this cask of wine. So they thought, well, I wouldn't mind if we had a bottle of wine. Open it, and there is a gold statue of Isis being shipped to Lord Cardigan in London.
Uh-oh.
So Carter lost his permit. Well, one of these reporters is sitting in the Director of Antiquities office in Cairo a few days later when Carter busts in, and says, you want the Jews to know what's in the papyrus? And the director throws an inkwell at Carter's head. These things weighed 12 pounds. And but Carter had his permit reinstated, and the papyrus has never been produced.
So do you have any clue what was in there that would be so offensive?
I know what's in it.
Can you enlighten us?
Well, let me just say this. Suffice me to say this. It tears the hell out of the whole of the myths of Abraham, and just blows it out of the water.
So obviously you're saying it shows a different lineage than what I suppose the biblical lineages.
Oh yes.
I mean, let me read. A lot of us, not the majority, but a lot of us already know that the whole myth of the Jews building the pyramids is a myth. Obviously, those pyramids were built way before them.
That's right.
And so,
especially the Sphinx.
Yeah, especially the Sphinx. That was probably there before the pyramids.
Oh, yeah. Well, it wasn't an Egyptologist or an archaeologist who discovered that. there was a geologist that happened to be looking around the base of the Sphinx and saw that its wearing was not from wind and sand.
Right, Robert Schoch.
From water.
Yeah.
So,
and it hasn't been rainy there for what?
Well, it would have to be the overflow of a sea or a river to produce the kind of wearing that he was looking at. So you're going back long before the Fertile Crescent. You're going back to when there was an entirely different climate. And so that pretty well takes you back at least 20,000 years.
The end of the last cycle. Or the beginning of this cycle.
Well, yeah. Here's something that people don't take in consideration. We know that the Sphinx has a different face than it originally had.
Right.
So what was that face? Probably the face of a lion.
Yeah, I'm thinking it was a lion head.
Yeah. So what is significant about a lion? What would be significant to a people's that would build a monument to a lion? Well, that's not typical of Egyptian tradition. So we're talking about something that involves completely different cultural elements, different cultural focus, and you have to bear in mind this, that any time you have something like that, it's impossible to date it except so far back. You really can't say that you've determined that. You know it's at least that old, but they sandblasted too.
Here's a question about the Sphinx. I heard somebody bring this up, and it made perfect sense, at least in my mind. At the distance from the ground level to the nose, where Napoleon had blasted it, someone suggested that at that time it would have been not underwater, but covered mostly by water, in order for the cannons to reach the nose. Because the cannons during that period would not been able to reach the nose.
Well, it would depend on where the cannon was. It was, Napoleon had spent the night in the Great Pyramid, and he came out white as snow. He orders the cannoneer to fire on the Sphinx, blows a part of the nose off. Then he heads for the Valley of the Kings. Gets to the Valley of the Kings and goes straight to an undiscovered tomb. The tomb of Horak, who was a general that married Tutankhamun's sister. And in the last so many years of his reign, he accumulated all the gold and silver that he could and built this massive pillar of electrum. Napoleon opens the tomb, takes that pillar, and starts to drag it across the desert. Of course, it wears out team after team of horses, and he ends up leaving it in a village, an oasis village. 20-foot pillar.
What did he see?
3 feet in diameter, made of 60% gold and 40% silver.
What did he see in that tomb that night in the pyramid?
It terrified him. But it could have sailed him on that course. First, he has his cannoneer shoot on the Sphinx, the face. Then he knows where to go to find a tomb that hasn't been discovered.
Right. So do you think the pyramids were more of an initiation chamber or a power source or what?
I think that what was in the Great Pyramid that reached or communicated to Napoleon is gone now. Taken by one of these critters like that Illuminati Bilderberger to keep people from knowing anything more about the last lineage or any warning about former extinctions, what led to them, so they don't end up having the finger pointed at them for doing the same thing. For perverting technology to where it is so self-destructive, so mutually annihilating, that it leads to an inevitability like we're facing now.
Well, so, but what do you think the purpose of the pyramids were originally?
Well, they're different pyramids with different purposes. I think that after people that are highly advanced leave a pyramid, I think that it becomes almost a tradition, and people think, well, this is a wonderful observatory. It is a wonderful place to use as a monument of our authority. It's a form of beauty. It becomes a singular cultural element. But there are pyramids that are time capsules. There are pyramids that serve more function. And the Pyramid of Giza, or the Great Pyramid, is one of them. I think there's one in China. I know there is one in Kentucky. And people have been debating whether it's a pyramid for many, many years. But it's a pyramid, and it's, of course, overgrown with trees and various forms of growth. But if you stand back and look, it's obviously a pyramid.
Yeah, there's so much that we just don't know about the history of this planet, and it's an absolute crime that the evidence that we do find and that has been found has been kept from us.
Yes. We are inquisitive. We are intelligent. We're creative, and yet all of these things are boxed in and constrained to particular types of use, and anything outside that is frowned upon and persecuted.
Right.
What do you think is the purpose of all these pyramids around the world? And I've even heard speculation of underwater pyramids.
So they have different purposes. Some of them are time capsules. Some of them are cultural centers, which edify the rulers because they represent their authority. Like in Mesoamerica, over Mesoamerica, that's what most of them are. But not all of them. The Pyramid of the Sun is something else. There are a number of other kinds of earthworks, effigy mounds and so forth, that are more than that. And the Serpent Mound, Chillicothe, Ohio, is a clue to what is behind the New World or Mesoamerican obsession with human sacrifice. And if you ever look at a drawing of it before it was changed after a golf course was built there, what you see is a snake. And this snake is chasing a frog. The frog is headed towards this temple mound. And in order to slow the snake down and get to the temple mound in safety, the frog lays an egg, so that the serpent will go for the egg and give it time. That is the New World motif for human sacrifice. The snake, of course, representing the sun, and the egg is the human sacrifice, the frog laying its own kind in order to have the time that it needs to survive until the next sun up.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that you have to go that far north, Ohio, in order to see why they were doing what they were doing in Central and Mexico, Central America, and some parts of South America.
Yeah. So, well, James, man, let's give you an opportunity to, well, let's leave on a high note here. What do you see for, I mean, I know there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that people are working very hard to, you know, do the best they can and bring us through this with flying colors. What's your optimistic view for our future?
You have attributes that have never been seen before. The question is whether the complete package can survive itself. And if it can, I guarantee you will have formal relations established between earthbound humans and an extended community of ETs in short order, and you will be groomed for admission into the extended community. And that is a hope. But it's an arduous process. It's happened many times, and you're at that point. All you have to do is relieve yourself of this cycle. And those that are dead set on continuing it. Now, I don't mean, take their power away from them. And then you have to work on yourself. You have to examine, you have to be very careful in examining what has kept this cycle going and how to build in safeguards against it ever happening again. And when you're on the road to doing that and you have concreted devices to prevent it from ever happening again, then there will be a reflection of that in your genetic structure. And you won't be producing aberrancy in your offspring.
We have the potential.
You have the potential. That's been proven.
Yeah.
You have had offspring that have been taken off world, taken to ET culture, civilizations before they were 6 years old, raised. These were children that were derelicts. They were abandoned, and nobody would ever take a person's child. And these children were taken, they were raised, and they had unified consciousness. They fit in perfectly well. There is no genetic impairment. This is the way in which you adapt within the cultural values that you're imprinted with. And how it furthers this process of split consciousness, dividing you against yourself, causing this conflict between the subconscious and conscious mind that carries on into war, carries on into ambivalence. All your institutions are failing you. I mean, I can point to one example after another. The individual is not resisting the trends. Except, there are some that do, but the masses do not resist the trends. The trends are counterproductive, if not self-defeating.
Well, I think we have, like I said earlier, I'm very optimistic. I think we have what it takes, and when more and more people, quote unquote, wake up, they're just adding to the positive outcome that we have in store for us. So You know, there's always the chance that things will go miserably sideways from the way I see it. But
I hope you're right. I'm a fan. I'm a fan. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't a fan of humanity. Right. I wouldn't be here.
Right. Well, Ramon, you got anything else?
No, not at the moment.
Well, James, thank you so much for joining us for this little short chat.
Anytime, guys.
Yes, we'll definitely do it again. And I just love your insight and your vast array of information. It's just, yeah, gotta love it. Gotta love it. And I want to thank everybody for listening. And wow, what a time to be here! I'll tell you what.
It is.
It is definitely a very interesting time to be here. If you thought life was boring, I'll tell you what, you just need to open your eyes. This is not boring.
No, it's not. Far from
all.
It's even going to get more interesting.
Yeah. Daily it gets more interesting.
Yeah.
So, okay, guys. Well, we love you, and we will talk to you next time. Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance.
The love you deny is the pain you carry.
Right. Good. Did you have to roll your sleeve up, Ramon?
No, a little bit.
All right. We'll see you guys.
Night.
Yes, This song is called Be the Change, inspired by the words of Mahatma Gandhi, who lived for peace and not violence, and told us to be the change we wish to see in the world. Freedom's calling, I feel the fire that's deep inside us. Everybody wants change, but tell me who will guide us to the leaders that pass away. Put up your lighters. It's a beautiful struggle, but it cannot divide us. We're the ones that we've always been waiting for. See yourself in the mirror and open up the door. Walk through it and feel the love throughout your pores. Be the light, life's purpose is to feel joy. Metaphysical, lyrical, standing up for truth. The only one to make change is walking in your shoes. Be the example, don't complain about the news. Making music and serving the world with the loo. Now you can be the same, or you can be the change. Find strength from inside, break through the chains. No one to blame, nothing to prove. You create your reality, it's up to you. Be the change that you wanna see in the world. Like Gandhi live for peace, aspire to be someone who fights for the beliefs. Like Martin Luther King, aspire to be that love, that light, like Christ. This life for the moment indeed. And if you believe in Jehovah, Allah, Buddha, Christian, it's up to me.
My soul yearns for peace in a world that's flooded with war. History's littered with body scar, trying to settle the score and maintain an archaic platform of power and greed. People fight for land out of survival and need. So I'm killing my television and I'm planting the seed to fill my head with knowledge that I'm seeing receive. Due to the media propaganda, killing my creed. Know what don't kill me, make me stronger, feeling straight when I bleed. Fight for inches and forwards attached to feet. They try to say you anything in this world, nothing for free. Land, air, fire, and water, they keep up in the ante, while the anti-proletariat told the powers that be. But we keep fighting, surviving and thriving, recycling and rhyming. We constantly inclining, we see through the lying and prying. They tactically keep trying to keep you from asking the why.
Be the change that you wanna see in the world. Like Gandhi live for peace, aspire to be someone who fights for the beliefs. Like Martin Luther King, aspire to be that love, that light, like Christ. This life for the moment indeed. And if you believe in Jehovah, Allah, Buddha, Christian, it's up to me. We find solutions, different possibilities, creating organizations like Aspire to Be, inspiring young minds to see, building life skills, nurturing creativity, fulfilling the youth's basic needs, listening actively, teaching the tools to succeed, positive role models, we plant the seed, the roots drink the water which feed the tree, someone help me, giving back is my responsibility. Be the change that you want to see in the world.